Hey guys, welcome back. I have a Discord for my Twitch and my YouTube and basically the whole community. And I got some really good suggestions today on what I should go over. And so this is going to be as complete of a guide as I can make it for Escort maps. And Escort, of course, is the game mode where there's no capture points. It's just a payload and you escort the payload to 3 checkpoints and with as much time as you possibly can at the end of it. So we're going to be going over door hold. We're going to be going over what you're actually fighting for. And we're going to be going over some advantages and disadvantages and kind of like how these maps are made up overall. And hopefully by the end of it, you have a better understanding about how to do some things and some tips and tricks on overall on how to kind of work in Escort, as it is its own game mode and it's really specific. Now I will say, the very first thing I'm going to go over is door holds, because it is the bread and butter of the beginning of a lot of Escort maps. I will say, so there are really 4 maps that you can do door holds on really effectively. And it's Havana, Junkertown, Rialto, and Route 66. Okay. Gibraltar and Dorado don't work as well. And the reason Gibraltar doesn't work as well is because that opening stage is really, really open. So it's very difficult for the defense to get any kind of foothold that actually makes sense. And the 3 openings on Gibraltar, one on the high ground, one on the way far left that doesn't have a line of sight, and then the main door makes it really difficult for the defense to kind of control that entire area. So it doesn't really work well on Gibraltar at all. And so Gibraltar is actually kind of the exception to the rule for Escort. And we'll go over why in a minute, but Gibraltar really is the exception for the rules that we're going to go over. Dorado's door holds, you actually can Dorado door hold. The thing is, Dorado has such a hard choke under the upper walkway after about 20-30 meters into the map, that it's really hard to find a logical reason why you would give up the high ground and that choke to try to do a door hold. Because the thing is, even if you do a really effective door hold, the next fight still won't be at that choke. It'll be 5-10 meters past that choke. So you are giving up that choke for the door hold. Now, some people might argue that the two fights you get for the door hold is equivalent to the 1 fight at the choke. I happen to not agree with that mentality, but that's why door holds on Gibraltar and Dorado really are kind of not advisable. But I can see where sometimes maybe some of them might be okay. Okay, so so it's really hard to draw on non-reviews because I have to hit escape to get to my drawing tool, but that's okay. So this is the attacker. So when you're defending, Havana's probably the heaviest door hold. There are 3 ways to door hold this, believe it or not, and all of them can be effective depending on how you're doing it. So the first way to door hold is actually this sign here. And the reason it's that sign there is basically what you do is you set up a kind of a bunker up there. Now this door hold has fallen out of favor as bunker has fallen out of favor. In the fact that what you used to be able to do is you used to put a BAP double shield up there with like even a bastion, but any amount of like really standard just sit there and shoot at stuff composition. And you used to be able to just sit there and kind of sustain there. But it's kind of fallen out of favor because bunker is not that strong anymore. The other door hold that is still strong and still really viable is the ability of having a Farah, or more accurately a pharmacy, above this building, because you can stay all the way above this building, and the more Farah can be directly above a fight, the harder it is to kill her, because you got to understand, for the hit scans, the more vertical the angle, the more difficult it is for them to actually hit the shot. And if she's literally above your spawn, that's a really hard ask for hit scans. You know, I remember like season 1, I don't remember who it was, but season 1, someone did like a jumping widow. I think it was Surefour. Someone did like a jumping widow shot over on the right side of this building over here and killed it. Like, that's super rare. It's obviously an incredibly difficult shot. So you can have a pharmacy there, and then you can have a Mei hold where you run a Mei, a Rein, a Diva, a Moira or Anna. It doesn't really matter. And so you have your full team composition there, where you basically have a Farah raining down from above, and a pretty sustainable Mei, Rein, Diva with a main healer composition below, able to kind of stall the cart. And there's these 2 angles of attack that are very severe angles, right? It's like right when you come out the door and right above the door. So there's these really severe angles. So that's the one, honestly, that's actually the one I favor the most. I like that one specifically because my varsity team is a really good Farah player, but also because I feel like it puts the most amount of pressure down where it can't just be a straight up brawl. And that's really the third one, is a straight up brawl where you start at this corner here, and you run any brawl essentially, right? Like you run Moira Lucio, you know, Rein, Diva, and then you run like Reaper Mei or Reaper Sombra or McCree Reaper or any other. Torb can be thrown in there. Like any amount of brawl you basically just throw in there, and then basically all you're doing is taking a brawl fight at their spawn door. And how simply I'm explaining that is why I don't like this one, is because it really just is a brawl fight at the spawn door. And it's like, well, there's no finesse to that. There's no like little kinks to it, right? I like the pharmacy above because it gives you that kind of pinch feeling, and it puts so much pressure on every door that you can immediately rotate to, that I really, really like that. Now, what's the point of this door hold? Because you're actually, believe it or not, and this comes into what you're actually fighting for in Escort. Believe it or not, the point of the door hold is 37 seconds. That's the point of the door hold. If you can hold it where the cart will not move for 37 seconds, if you can get it to 3 minutes and 23 seconds, you've won. It is an effective door hold. Because if you get it down to 37 seconds, what ends up happening is you take the second fight very quickly. You want to, well, you don't want to lose it, but you lose that fight as well. And then you take the third fight at around 2 minutes with a good ult economy, about 5 meters before the door. And what ends up happening is you basically get 3 fights in 2 minutes, build your ult economy rather quickly, and you make absolutely certain, even if you lose all 3 fights, you still shave 2 minutes, a little over 2 minutes off their clock. And if you win 1 fight, you shave 3 minutes off their clock. That's the beauty of the door hold, is you take a door hold here, you hold for 37 seconds. Your Mercy's going to switch to a Lucio, and your Farah is going to switch to whatever. It doesn't actually matter. Whatever DPS you happen to want to be running, okay? You take the second fight in this area. It depends on how fast you are. So the fastest ones can actually take a fight on the corner, and the slowest ones will take a fight down here at the ticket booth, okay? If you take a fight at the ticket booth, you need to make sure all of you die on point and that cart does not move until all 6 of you die, and then you get a very fast speed boost and you get it within like a meter of it capping, okay? But you're gonna get it somewhere in this area is where you're going to get the second hold, okay? And you do not expend any ultimates. You just get more ult economy and try to int into them hard enough where they actually do ultimates, is the point. So you want to actually try to force them to use ultimates in that second fight. You preserve it because you're not actually trying to win the second fight. What you're trying to do is about 3 to 5 meters before they cap right here, rush onto point, then you expend an ult economy advantage, or at least ult first. You play firsts. and you make it work, and that's kind of the whole point of this strategy. And it leads into what you're actually playing for in Escort, and what you're playing in this Escort is time. You're playing for time. You're not playing for space. You're not playing for fight wins. Yes, you need to win fights. Yes, or you should. Yes, you're trying to get kills. Yes, blah blah blah. You want to cap points. You're really playing for time. And that's the whole point here is, like I said, if you lose all 3 fights, you still shave over 2 minutes off their time bank. And if you win 1 fight, meaning you've lost 2 and won 1, meaning the other team has won more fights than you, you still have shaved 3 minutes off their time bank. And if they lose a second fight, think about this, you're even in fights. You're 2-2. If you win that 4th fight, you're 2-2, and they're going to be scrambling to even touch point. Because you're taking that 3rd fight and winning it at about a minute, maybe like 45 seconds to a minute, right? And they're going to be like, oh crap, and they're going to have to end on to point to even get a decent fight off. And you're even in fights. That's the beauty of the door hold. You're even in fights. You've lost 2, you've won 2. Yet their time bank is now so low that you've put incredible pressure on them, and they will not end in this map with good time. Even if they get through all 3 points, they will not end it with good time. And that's the point. In Escort, you were supposed to make the enemy team fight for every single itch. Make them fight for it. Don't give them anything for free. And this is why one of the main things that I harp on with Escort is staggers. Okay, if you're on defense and you're being staggered, that's one of the biggest things you can't do in Escort, because every stagger gives them a little of their time back. Okay, and so you can't do that. So every map you can do this. Now every second point in Escort, almost. Again, Dorado's a little bit of an exception here, but you know, most of the other ones have really tight chokes from the offensive spawn going into the defensive spawn. Your job in the second point of these is to win 1 fight and then hold these doors. That's your job. Win 1 fight and then make sure you're constantly putting pressure on these doors. Do you need to make sure they don't come in ever? No, don't overextend. But you need to make sure that they never get through those doors for free. Make them expend a cooldown. Make them lose health. Get alt charge. They do not get through those doors for free. And obviously the doors I'm talking about is they don't get through here, right, for free. They don't get through there for free. So you need to have scouting on every single door on all these maps, and make sure they don't get it through there for free, and find your advantage to win 1 fight. You get that effective door hold, and you lose 4th fight, they're down, they get an extra 2.5 minutes, whatever it is, right? You get 1 more fight, they're below 2 minutes again. You win 1 more fight, they're below 2 minutes. So you go 1 of 3 fights on the first one, you go 1 of 2 fights on the second one, you now won 2 out of 7 fights, they're below 2 minutes going into 3rd. Okay, that's the beauty of this. That's the beauty of playing defense. Really, they should no team should ever end with more, like, no defense should ever give up more than about 3.5 minutes on an Escort ever. Okay, if you play it appropriately. Okay, and that deals with alt cycling and cooldown cycling. But this is kind of how you play Escorts. Okay, and so the same goes for this. You try to win a fight early. If you can't, you win a fight, you know, down here at this bend, basically, right? And even if you lose that fight, you still, if you can get it together fast enough, you still want to contest that, even if you have to stagger contest it, because you still are playing for time. And if you're not using ultimates, and either you force them to use ultimates, or you're staggering getting alt charge, and they're getting alt charge, you're evening out in alt charge. It'll be okay, right? And then you go into 3rd point, and 3rd point is generally, 3rd point can be very open, like this map, or can be very closed, like Dorado. It doesn't actually matter. The point of the 3rd map is, generally speaking, to control high grounds. You think about Dorado, the high ground. You think about this map, the high ground. You think about like Route 66, like the moving platforms and the big 18-wheelers, like staying up there. Like controlling those, because the high grounds on the 3rd points are generally off angles. So controlling the high ground off angles, really, really important on 3rd points. And the other thing you want to do on 3rd points is make sure that you are taking the fights when they're advantages to you. Don't take fights that aren't advantages to the 3rd point. The 3rd point is when you're like, okay, you're kind of backed on a wall, but you have a good spawn. So like, don't take a fight, for example, on defense. Don't take a fight here unless you have a really good advantage, because you're out in the open. You don't have any natural cover, and they do. They have a bunch of canisters that they can poke in that, you know, your high ground or whatever can't see. So you have that availability. So make sure that you take that into account, okay? So that's how you play defense. You play for time. Okay, offense too, but defense, you play for time, and you consistently try to play for time, and you consistently try to make sure that the offense has to constantly fight for every inch. Now, the offense, you also play for time, but essentially you play the counter strategy to what I said. What you do is you control your off angles, and you try to get stagger picks. So you push, and you push consistently. So let's say they door hold, they hold for 37 seconds, fine. The whole point, what you need to do is you need to make sure you leave one on point, and then you move up and get somebody on off angles so that when they move into it, because they're going to be moving quickly, when they move into it, you catch somebody not quite doing it right, and then you pinch at every angle over here. That's the point, is you get stagger picks, because you're also fighting for time. And the more stagger picks you are, the more you're forcing the enemy team to regroup without a real team fight, which means they're never actually touching cart. The cart's moving throughout the entire process, right? And the more you kind of take space. If you win a point on second, move up and make sure that you use the second to your advantage, right? Because I said there's hard chokes this way. There's hard chokes this way too, man. It's hard to get through these two doors if you have an offense that actually knows what they're doing. So make sure that you're constantly taking advantage of match geometry like that on second point as well. You make sure that they can't freely get through the doors consistently, and you control these high grounds, okay? You try to make it so you get picks and take fights that aren't on cart, so that the cart is consistently moving. So even if you lose the fight, right? Make sure everyone's in the fight, but even if you lose the fight, the cart's been moving throughout the entire process of the fight. So you're playing for time the entire time, okay? And that's really the whole point of Escort, is you're playing for time. Now, the door hold is kind of a tip and a trick. For the off, and then alt economy, you know, don't if you're doing the door hold, don't alt on first, don't alt on second, spin alt economy on third, okay? That's also a trick. On second point, do whatever you can as far as alt economy or anything else is concerned to get through second without being held on offense, without being held at your doors. So do everything you can to push that card as far as humanly possible without losing a fight, because you don't want to be held at your doors. And then as far as alt economy is concerned, I think Escort, I think Control is probably the game mode that requires the most discipline as far as alt economy is concerned. But Escort still requires quite a bit. And so I would really highly recommend that you guys build a composition that has at least 2 win conditions, you know, like Grab Dragon, and you also have like Nano Blade or something. Like, that's not a great composition right now, but you get the point. You have 2 very obvious win conditions, you know, EMP Bomb, EMP Shatter, Hack Shatter, Charge Bomb, Diva Bomb, Grav whatever, Nano Rhine into whatever, like just some kind of combination so you consistently can cycle your alts doing, okay, this is our win condition we're using time. Great. Next fight, this is our win condition. Next, go to the other one, back and forth, and you do it that way. That's very, very effective. So anyway, that's kind of Escort. I'll quickly show you, let me quickly show you, okay, so we're on Junkertown, so let me quickly show you, like, Junkertown, positionally for the door hold and things like that. You hold, so there's 2 options on Junkertown too. It's basically either to the left or the right of the door. So you can either hold here, so you have the full cross if they come out this, or you can hold in this building and kind of stall on cart, but also you still have sights here and you have a lot of natural cover. And then you have a lot of natural cover where the weakness of this one is this high ground. So you have that advantage. You hold 37 seconds. The next fight you try to take not at this corner, but more at this corner. You try to take it at that corner, and you try to stall that out as long as you can, and then you obviously take it within 5 meters. And then on defense, essentially, you try to win 1 fight, and then you control, just like I said, you control all the high grounds and make sure they don't get through any of these doors for free, right? You constantly have scouting, you constantly have everything going on. And then on third point, you take the fights that are advantage to you, right? Don't take the fights like here. This is not advantages to you, right? Don't take the fights like back here. Generally, probably not advantages to you. Don't take the fights in this pit. Probably not advantages to you. Maybe it is, but you never know. You know, control the high ground, make sure you look down, find the fights that are advantage to you. And then on Junkertown, actually, after that, you actually can do the same thing you do on second, which is make sure they don't get through any of these doors for free. On attack, spread out, find your off angles. Junkertown has great off angles. For first point, make sure you spread out, have off angles. Don't just let them sit there at corners, whether it's this one or this one or this one or whatever. Don't let them sit on corners. Don't let them surround you. Make sure you have the off angles available. Make sure you have scouting. Make sure you have a cohesive, cohesive composition. And on offense, same thing as on second point as Havana. If you get a free fight win, don't just sit on cart. Control the high ground. Make sure they don't get through any of these doors for free. And make sure you at least make them do something or think twice about it. If anyone does try to get through those doors like by themselves because they're just not thinking or whatever the case may be, make sure you stagger. Get those stagger picks. Just make sure you don't push too far to get those stagger picks. And then that's kind of the idea. I think on all of these maps, and I think I'll just go ahead. I keep doing that. I think I'll just go ahead and do one more. I'll go ahead and do one of the exceptions. I'll go ahead and do Gibraltar, because Rialto is very much like Havana or Junker. Those three are kind of the most common. Route 66 is also kind of like Rialto, where it's not really a door hold, but it's like where the cart starts hold, basically. So Gibraltar is a little bit different. And so this is... Oh, I need to go to spectator. Only through conflict. Yeah, okay, doofus, cool. So Gibraltar's a little bit different. The reason Gibraltar's really different is because of this really open... let me float over there. Because this really open first point that, frankly, is, in my opinion, is kind of poorly designed. Because the offense actually has the advantage. So... you can't door hold because you can't see this door that's completely out of sight. You can't hold that, and that. It's just too much pressure, and there's not really a good position to do all that from. Now you can try. What you can do is you can try where you can like sit in here and then you can just speed out in like some kind of brawl comp and try to get something down. Generally though, the issue is that there's only going to be like one person on card. You might kill the Zen or whatever, but the rest of them are going to be like on the high ground over here or something because it's usually a dive composition. So you can do this and you're not actually going to lose a lot from doing that other than the fact that it kind of has to be a brawl comp and you generally don't want to run that on this map. So it kind of sucks, which is why you generally see teams controlling the high grounds back here and immediately backing up to blue box and kind of here. And the first fight they actually want to take is in this pit because they have these high grounds. And there's one back here. And then they have this like kind of natural cover coming in kind of a thing. And so this is really the first fight teams usually take on defense. And I don't like this personally because it breaks the mold, but also it kind of sucks, right? Like you really only get one fight on defense Gibraltar. Now it's made up for because second point Gibraltar is so ridiculously strong. If you stop them in second point, which I really hope you always do, these four doors might be the most difficult choke to get through in the entire game. If you're on offense, those four doors might be the hardest choke in the game to get through. I think it's probably harder than Hanamura first. I think it's probably harder than Paris first, even though that's not, competitive. I mean, it is brutal getting through these four doors because if you think about it, they have this massive high ground that can see all four at all times. They could be on either one of these high grounds that they can see two on at either time. And they could still be on these little mini high grounds or just here looking this way or just here looking this way. And there's so many lines of sight where like you just don't know what you're gonna get as you're walking through this door until you actually walk through the door, that this is a difficult choke. So if you're on offense, I would recommend not trying your absolute best not to get stopped here. If you're on defense, I would say control the high grounds. Make sure you vary the high ground you use a little bit so that they're not always just like, because the whole point of this is if they turn the corner and they know exactly where you are, it's a problem. Because if they turn the corner and they know three of you have been up here because you've been up there the last 3 minutes, well, great, good for you. You've held less than 3 minutes. But we need to vary a little bit because the whole point of it is, we know where they're coming from, but they're not really sure where we're coming from is the whole point. So if you do the same thing over and over again, kind of a problem. So anyway, that's the end of the video. I hope that's insightful for Escort. If you have any questions, please leave a comment. If you like the video, there's a like button. And if you like the content in general, you know, subscribe. Appreciate it. I feel awkward saying like, comment, subscribe. I just do. But I really do appreciate it. And I really would like feedback, comments, things like that. This video was feedback idea. So cool. Thanks, guys. And have a nice day.